everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I'm back with a finished jewelry update, and I have a lot of things to share, mainly from last month's and this month's bargain bead box subscriptions. So mainly some stringing projects using their glass and gemstone beads and metal components. And if you haven't seen those unboxings, I will try to link those in the corner or link them down below the video. That subscription is one I highly recommend. It's a great deal at just $19.50 per month shipped to your door, and I have a $2 off coupon code that's good off your first box that I will leave down below also. Now, most of you all are familiar with these finished jewelry updates. I've done them for a long time. But if you're not, first of all, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Not only do I love sharing bead boxes and bead subscriptions, but I also want to come back every once in a while and share with you what I have actually created from these contents, because that's really what it's all about. So I'll give you a peek at each of these pieces that I've made. I'll tell you a little bit about them, and who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to pick up your beads and create something new, or maybe it'll get you to think about something in a different way. And I know most of you are here to create jewelry, but just to let you know, I will have these pieces listed on my website. So if you go to orchidandopal.com and visit my shop, you can see these pieces, plus lots more one-of-a-kind items I've shared here and in various tutorials and things over time. But let's get started with the items that came in the June 2022 bargain bead box. That one had a ton of warm tones, like these colors that you see here. We had gold toned findings and metallic components, some carnelian. We had some lighter colored glass beads as well, like you can see that I've mixed into this set. And all the beads I used here did come from the monthly box. I decided to go with a 3-strand necklace in terms of the beads, but I used these 5-loop components, which actually came from their sister store, Bead Box Bargains, something that I had purchased a while back. And I used those components to include 2 strands of chain to break up those strands of beads. The thinner chain that's in the front of the necklace also came from the box, and so did the golden colored spacer beads that are sitting in between the lighter colored glass beads. I thought it would be nice to break up the carnelian and not do the same type of bead on each strand, but to sort of keep this cohesive throughout the necklace. So the way I broke this up, as you can see, and created those different strands is the bottom strand of beads has the most beads on it. So you can see, for example, here, there's 4 carnelian rounds on either side of the center of this necklace. Then you go up and there's 3, then you go up again and there's 2. So each strand going down is just a little bit longer than the one before it. And I also used some wire guards to attach these to those 5-loop components. In addition, I made a pair of earrings to go along with this necklace, and I used some of that thinner chain in different length segments to hang off the bottom, give these earrings a little bit of movement, and attached a carnelian bead at the bottom of each of those segments of chain with a ball head pin, and just securely loop those on. And the top of these earrings, of course, incorporate those beige colored rondelles and those golden colored beads with the etching on both sides. And there's a full look at the necklace so you can see the back. I did use a different piece of chain from my stash, some of the larger Rolo chain, and then I added an extender with a matching bead as an embellishment. Next is a beaded necklace, 1 strand with the pendant that came from the subscription box. That also includes those striated agate beads with those warm tones. And I really wanted to add a pop of color to the warm neutrals in a set. So I decided to pull some of these turquoise beads, which I think really complement the orangey toned agates nicely. I used some of the larger round stone beads in the front, broke them up with some more agate around the side, and then on the back I used some of the smaller faceted turquoise beads that I had in my stash to finish it up. You may remember these components or beads already came with the wire wrapping on them, so they were ready to go to add to anything you really wanted to do with them. So I decided to pull 1 coordinating turquoise bead to top those off and to bring those 2 colors together. And I did a very similar and simple wire wrapped coil around the top of those beads to imitate these coils and also to imitate the coil that I did at the top of this pendant. And here's the necklace in full, so you can see the back of that, how I finished that up with the lobster clasp and extender chain. This time I used a small piece of the carnelian I had left over from the first necklace to use as an accent for the extender, and I also used some more of those golden spacer beads to break up some of the stone material with some metal accents. For the next necklace set, I figured I would just lay it out like this the best I could because it is a bit longer and it's got those fringe ends. But this is the third set that I made from the June subscription box, and I used a lot of the different beads that they had provided in that set, including the faux Druzy focal pendant and the freshwater pearls that came already with their loops in place. I also incorporated some of the other glass faceted beads, the Druzy style agates, these glass beads, and we were provided with 4 of these stainless steel chandelier components. So I decided to use 2 of those in the lariat. I have one that is secured at the bottom of the opening of this Druzy. And then this other strand you can just drape inside, and it makes for a sort of loose and adjustable necklace. I wire wrapped everything together and used some of the chain that was included in the box to drape off of these chandelier ends, and made these 2 coordinating earrings to go along with the set, and these incorporate a couple of those freshwater pearls that I had left over from the necklace. I wanted to give you a little closer look at the Druzy component and the attachment, and you can see how this strand just easily drapes right in there. This is resin, but the nice thing about it, it's very lightweight, so it doesn't weigh down your necklace as much as stone would. And it's got that golden colored material that is framing out the edges. It did come with a loop at the top, so that's where I attached that first strand. And then here is that other one that is fixed into place. And now for the items from this month's, or the July 2022 bargain bead box. This one had a beachy theme. It came with the peach and white silver tone findings and some greenish and bluish turquoise beads to give us a softer color palette. And they also included some shell components and starfish themed items. So this is the first set that I made, a necklace and earrings. And let me just bring you in close to the pendant. So this silver component that's holding both of those shell pendants at the bottom, that actually had come in a previous bargain bead box. So if you've been a subscriber for a while, you may already have something like that. And it may still be available on their sister site, Beadbox Bargains. But it seemed like the perfect component to use. First of all, it was silver, it matched the tone of the findings. But I wanted to incorporate both of those shell pendants into one piece, and I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do it. And I stumbled across that metallic piece and thought that might be perfect. So I first wire wrapped those 2 shell pieces onto each of those loops, and then wire wrapped a peach shell onto the top of that, and then incorporated 2 small light peach colored pearls from my stash that you'll also see in this necklace. And I really love how that all came together. So going up the necklace, you can see those light peach freshwater pearls I pulled from my stash, and the light pink rondelle shaped shell beads and the whitish colored shell beads, the more round ones. And those are broken up by some very simple silver spacer beads that I also had on hand. And that pattern pretty much goes all the way up the rest of the necklace, and the back is completed with a lobster clasp and extender chain. And here's a closer look at the coordinating earrings, again using those peach shells and the smaller shell components that match those larger pendants, and the light peach pearls on some ear wires that I had on hand. And up next is a starfish set. This one actually came with the large main component in the silver tone, and I got a little adventurous, I guess, and I started to use some metallic paint from the company called Vintage, and this is in their verdigris color. I have a little bit of footage of me actually painting that component, so I'm going to try to incorporate some of that so you can see that in action and see what it looked like from the start. But basically, I did a couple of layers and wanted this to have a bit of an aged effect. I didn't want it to look perfect, but I did want to have a good amount of that color located on the starfish. But after I painted it, I went back in with a paper towel and just lightly wiped off some of the color just to let some of that silver show through from underneath that paint. But these paints are really fun when it comes to metallic components. They come in all different colors, first of all, and they work not only on metal, but on many other types of materials. And I'll try to share a link to that product if you're interested in trying out some of their paints. And since I went with that large starfish component, I also decided to incorporate some of the smaller starfish beads in the silver going up the necklace. Those larger, round, faceted glass beads came from the box as well, and so did those larger fluted melon style beads in that lighter turquoise color. I did pull some of the faceted turquoise from my stash to provide another shape and size and also be able to elongate the necklace to its full length. Here's a closer look at the front component, and you can see that I attached my stringing material to either side of the hole that was on the starfish. That may be a little bit challenging to some just because it's got that point that sticks up. So it's like, how do I connect to this starfish component? That's just one way that I decided to do that, just directly to the hole with a separate piece on either side. And then I incorporated a small jump ring that went around those loops and kind of frames that hole. And I used that to dangle off a couple of these other starfish shapes that were provided to us in the same monthly box. Around these ribbed beads, you can see I also incorporated the bead caps that they had sent, and I did pull some very simple round silver spacers from my stash. Here's a look at the coordinating earrings, just using some of those same beads that I used in the necklace and attached those to some ear wires that I had on hand. And the back of this necklace is just finished off in the same faceted rondelle turquoise beads with a lobster clasp and an extender chain. Up next is this breezy and beachy white necklace. It is a 2-strand that goes into 1 strand at the back, and I did incorporate these shells from their sister site Beadbox Bargains into this necklace. I figured that they went really well with the theme, and it'd be a great opportunity to pull those out and use them and add a little bit of that gold that shows up in the wash to what would otherwise just be basically white and sort of clear and silver. We were provided with these 2 really interesting agate pendants, and half of them is more opaque and half of them is a bit translucent. So along that line, I decided to use the round white beads on one side and those more clear crackle agate cubes on the other side, just to make things a little bit interesting and go along with that color suggestion of these pendants. So this could just be a 1 strand also. I just decided to double it up just to do something different. I used some very basic round silver spacers from my stash, and then on the back I incorporated some of those white rondelles with the AB coating. I'll show you more of that in just a moment. And then, of course, made a set of simple earrings to go along with the necklace. And they do match the color scheme and were a way to break up those 2 different styles of beads that were used in the necklace. And I think they go pretty well, even though I didn't use those specific components in the necklace itself. And now in this view, you can see the back of the necklace. I made this one a tiny bit longer. I'd say it's closer to about 22 inches. And it's finished up with the lobster clasp back there also, and the extender chain with the coordinating cube bead at the bottom. And then finally, from the contents of that box, I made a little something for myself. I made an anklet using some of the starfish beads and the starfish component that I had left over, the silver one, as a charm. And this anklet also includes those cylinder-shaped lava beads that have that silver plating on the outside. And I also have a little starfish dangle hanging off as a small extender near the clasp. So now you've seen everything I made from the last 2 bargain bead boxes. Next, I want to show you 3 new things I have from the Cherry Blossom Festival box that I curated with Beading School. And since you can still get your hands on that box, if you haven't already, I thought it'd be fun to share even more to give you some additional projects that can be created from the contents of that box. And of course, I will leave the link for that down below also. So the first piece I want to show you is an alternate way that you can use that L2 Studio trapezoid pendant, and that is to incorporate it into a bead embroidery piece like the one you see here. I won't have a full tutorial for this one, but I will have a step-by-step breakdown of how I created this piece on my blog, and that will be up tomorrow. So I'll have pictures of the different steps, and you can see it being created layer by layer. Using, again, all things that come in the Cherry Blossom Festival bead box. This is done in 2 pieces. I have the main component here, of course, and then made a smaller component there to go at the top that's got one of those nacre pearl cabochons inside. And then here's a little look at the back of the pendant. I just finished this with some faux leather and did some brick stitching with some seed beads around the side. So I beaded around this pendant layer by layer, including the cup chain, and just went around with the different types of beads, including some of the 2-hole Miyuki half tilas, and then put this all together and finished it off finally with some movement in the form of the fringy components down here, those mini dagger beads, and then some of the smaller fire polish going up further, and then finally some 15-0 seed beads. And then you could use the silk cord that came in the box as well as your material to turn that into a necklace. And those cords came in all different colors, from aqua to pink to peach. This is one other color I just happen to have on hand. So if you're curious about that piece, I will try to share a link to that blog post tomorrow so you can check out these step-by-step pictures and a little write-up to go along with it. And then next, this necklace will have a tutorial to go along with it next week. And I have 2 other colorways I'll show you in just a moment. But this is the colorway that you can make using the beads and components directly from the Cherry Blossom Festival box. We're going to make 3 components with that nacre pearl in the center, and then 2 other components with the cushion cut crystals framing out that center component. And we'll use one of those drops at the bottom in the center of the necklace. This is a design that uses the 2-hole Vex Solo beads in those pearl components, and we'll also be using some of the 2-hole mini gem duo beads going up the rest of the necklace to form a simple chain. Here's an alternative colorway that I created in different shades of these golden tones of metallic, done in the same way with the different components and the chain. The chain I improved upon from the first one, so I'll be bringing you a tutorial using the chain that looks a little bit more like this, just a subtle difference there. And then here is another colorway. This one is created with the different beads and crystals and pearls done in black and silver. So that should give you an idea of what these would look like if done in another way. So be on the lookout for this tutorial coming up next week if you want to make one for yourself. And then I just shared the tutorial for the Cherry Blossom Festival rings. Here's the one in purple. That video was posted last week. That's another item that you can make from the contents of the box to go along with the 4 existing tutorials I already have posted on my channel. And then this purple and silver one was done using a couple different colors and different sizes of the dagger beads. So just to give you another idea of what that would look like using something different maybe you have already on hand. And of course, these components that you make in the tutorial you can use for all sorts of different things, including a pair of earrings or something else. So be sure to check out that video that's already available if you'd like to make one of these rings. And then one other little thing I thought I'd mention, I made another one of these buckle bracelets using the flat even count peyote stitch. You can check out this tutorial from a couple weeks ago. I had made those in a blue and also a purple variety, and this is the one that I made in this alternate orangey and peachy color palette, using one of those buckles from BB Craft that you can fasten just like a little belt around your wrist, and also making this adjustable, which is very handy to have in a bracelet, especially if you're making it for somebody else. So just another option to see this done in a different set of colors. Of course, you can do stripes or any other design you want to, and it's fun to see how different colors can change the overall appearance of a design. So that wraps up everything I have to share with you today. Since the last time I shared finished pieces, I hope you enjoyed checking these items out, and even better if it provided you with some kind of inspiration or idea, even if it was something totally different that came to your mind while you were watching. You just never know how that works out. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and for keeping me inspired to create and share more of these pieces and tutorials. You'll have to leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you've been up to. Maybe you've made some items from these similar boxes that I have shared, or anything else you'd like to say. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and definitely subscribe while you're here if you haven't already. That way you'll be notified when I am posting new fun beading content. And feel free to share the video with your other bead-loving friends. I'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.